for the desert, that it's a place to make films, and be yourself.
I would love it if you would talk more about the camp of the film, and what drew you specifically to camp. And I guess there's kind of two questions there: not only the camp, but also the drag element too. And if
Sure.
let's start with the camp, and then we'll enter into the drag.
Sure. Camp is like my bread and butter. I think a lot of films are campy. Is the one that my Northern Star is Batman Forever. Joel Schumacher master. It will adjust this. You probably can see some analogies, but film sparked something in me as a kid that, like, I've never, the production design that film, I know, hold it together.
Arnold Schwarzenegger and Uma Thurman, right?
That is Batman and Robin. I'm talking about the Valkyrie that introduces Robin and has the Riddler and Two-Face. But both are Schumachers and both. But I would say, because a lot of people are, would say a queer film, but that is really like my source of camp. And I work with a production designer named Evan Black, who's a wonderful friend of mine and collaborator. And he gets that background of me and kind of pushes it into the queer and the new. So that's like part of abilities. I would say with drag, like in the 2 years, I've been really inspired by people like Alyssa Edwards, drag queens who were really comedians first, Ben Delacreme, and I saw that a lot of Ruse girls were having those kinds of camp films, the skits, and Hulu was paying for those films. So I was like, I really wanted this to be a whole genre that Netflix has endless titles to scroll through. So I tried to get that like high level of camp. I'm also using a drag queen here who, God's truth, does not know the name of any of Rue's girls, does not know anything about Rue's world at all. So she is camp. That is camp. And she doesn't have to try. She really is that drag queen from Nutbush, Tennessee. Really is that person. So I have to give Lady Shalane a huge amount of credit for her campiness alone.
That's fantastic. One of the things I wanted to ask you, one of the things that kind of grabbed me right away is that you start with kind of the most heteronormative instance of these wedding engagement pictures that I have family members who have done the same thing, staged them in parks, and I'm like, what is this? But I just think it's such a moment to see on Mel's face how you capture that sheer misery of that heteronormative experience. And that kind of kicks up and starts this journey that M goes on. Talk a little bit about bringing and looking into this, how you cast this and found each other to tell the story, and kind of as that leaping off point.
Yeah, I wanted. So we're not spending a lot of time in the film on gender dysphoria. That's like the main time, right? So and I didn't want it to be. I wanted it to both feel kind of dire without being super dire, right? Like it's like this volume knob on the discover aspect of things, and so and we were also interested in possibly just because this was the case for me. Like I had been out as non-binary for 4 years before I started testosterone. I think that is also line in the movie. I think I just gave them the same timeline as me. Right. So like, I think also right, like there's part of this kind of long process of like it's not somebody who's like not that this doesn't happen because it does, right? But it's somebody who is like somewhat queer in their presentation where there is no haircut. I mean, it was 2 years, they all got haircuts. But like there's no, like long hair to short hair, whatever, right? Like we're looking at someone who has a fairly queer presentation overall, who already understands themselves not to be a woman. And so there's this question of like what triggers, like why now, right? And so we kind of came around this like this engagement and having to leave this relationship as a place where they were not able to like take this next step. Like this relationship had been a limiting factor, but then also like everything about weddings. Like if you're trying to there's just so much like bizarre genderness and heteronormativity and like how people often approach weddings or like formal wears as a non-binary person is really just like kind of challenging to figure out how you want to present, and so it felt like that was a way that we could do something that was visual, right, that would read cinematically. That isn't like putting the character in like a deep traumatic zone, not to like discount. I don't want to like rank things, but you know what I mean, right? Like it's like a somewhat everyday trauma if it's a trauma, but that you could like really clearly key into like, oh yeah, this person can't stay here, right? Like that's not gonna work for them because we're really not gonna go back to a feminine presentation at any time. We're not gonna talk about. We're not gonna talk much more about gender dysphoria from that point. So we just like need to like get something quick, and so it kind of checked those boxes as a starting point to understand where the character was coming from, so that we could then move on, right, for the rest of the movie from that discomfort.
I love that because you're focusing on something that if a trans or a non-binary person or even a queer person is looking on that, it's like, oh, I can latch onto that and I can see that and identify with that. And I think too, because I'm always thinking about like, how do we educate the straights? Like, it's a great way to show like these are kind of the everyday like hurdles facing of like, what do I wear to a wedding? Like, how do I manage this? So I love that for showcasing that.
Yeah.
I think that something, that I want you all both to kind of talk to a little bit. I mean, as you've worked on these projects, and just kind of in life, our community has kind of always been under constant attack. But of late, there has been very kind of vicious and targeted against drag, against trans and gender expensive people, and one of the things that for us as we were looking at your projects is just the way that in the face of that, we don't really have to go there, but you just own the narrative. And being able to embrace and just take it and own the narrative. And I want you to both to kind of talk a little bit about how you embrace that and take control of the narrative in the face of everything that's going on right now.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it was pretty